And so they do the work and then they get the results, which is like amazing. It's the coolest thing ever. And then they're like, that was nothing I paid you compared to what I've gotten in return. And that's like a very measurable outcome, but even more, it's almost always when I think back on what I've paid coaches, I think I underpaid them for the value of what I've gained from that over the compounding years of being able to use what I learned.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regin, and today's guest is Amy Kemp, CEO of Amy Kemp, a certified habit finder coach, speaker, and now author of I See You, which we can see in the background as well, a guide for women to make more, have more, and be more without more work. Amy is a strategic business leader and passionate people developer who has coached hundreds of leaders, especially women in business, on how to transform their thought habits so they can lead with clarity, confidence, and balance. Through her signature encounter program and one-on-one coaching, Amy helps clients uncover the subconscious patterns that keep them overworking, undervaluing themselves, or putting everyone else first. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks so much, Regin. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming, Amy. I'm looking forward to covering this. So when it comes to your coaching business and when you started it, I want to understand, well, going back to the beginning of it, what inspired you to become a coach and start your own coaching business?
Yeah, this was a complete accident. I had no strategic plan. I didn't think I was starting a business. I had worked for over 20 years in sales leadership, then kind of sales leadership. So while this business was a new iteration of coaching people, I had been doing work like that for some time before I started this business. What precipitated the move over to kind of this new lane was that in my personal life, so outside of the context of my other work, I continuously had conversations with women who would come to me privately and talk to me about what they were experiencing. And these were all women who they had done some things. You know, they were professional women who had built a business, or they had moved up the career path to a certain point, or maybe their sales or their productivity in their current role was at a level of success, according to what most people would say. And they were feeling isolated. They were feeling exhausted, primarily because of the demands of their work, but also their commitments outside of work. And then they all were talking to me. And I kept on thinking, if this person over here knew this person, something really magical could happen. You know, if she knew that what she was saying is actually the same thing that this other person was saying, it would be really cool to see what could happen. So I was out in Salt Lake City, speaking at an event there. I had worked with a business coach years prior, and he actually had worked with many people in my organization as well. The work I did with him was, just to give you some context, I have done a tremendous amount of coaching, professional development, all of that kind of work myself as a leader. The work I did with him was probably the most transformational, and the work he did with people in my organization. And he used this tool called the Habit Finder. So anyhow, we had stayed in touch. I said, I'm going to be in Salt Lake City. You know, he's like, I'll pick you up. Let's have dinner. We went to dinner. It's great. We were just catching up. I said, oh my gosh, I have all these women and they're talking to me about these things and I don't know what to do about it, but I feel like I need to really do something with this. And he said, well, on Monday, so this was a Thursday, we're starting a training for people who want to use the Habit Finder tool in their coaching practices. I had never thought of being a coach. I didn't think, I wasn't looking for a tool. It was so crazy that I sort of just trusted it. I just thought, okay, Like, what do I have to lose? I'll get certified. I'll go through this very extensive like education process, and then I'll use this and just scratch an itch. I'll kind of see what happens. And what happened was that I started with 2 groups of 8 women, and that was 9 years ago. And now this has become quite quickly, grew faster than my wildest expectations in terms of it becoming a real business that was viable. And so this is my work.
And so, according to LinkedIn, it's been almost 8 years with this business, right?
I'm coming up on my 9th anniversary. So I'm kind of in the 8th year right now. Yes.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Throughout these 8 years and going through the coaching journey with these clients, with these women, and there's not just women, I believe, but mostly women we mentioned in the intro as well. What about it do you find most rewarding?
I consider the work to be sacred. I think one of the coolest parts of what I do is that when you operate at the level that my clients do, you can't go to the baseball game on the weekend that your kid is playing in and say like, I just got a 20% raise. You can't call. There are very few people who you can call and say, I just closed the biggest deal of my career, or I just got a call yesterday that one of my former clients called just to let me know that they are on track to have their best year by far, and there's still 4 more months left in their fiscal year. I get to be the receiver of those calls because who's she going to tell, right? You can't go. It's not like you're going to go to your church or your synagogue or your wherever and then just say that. It's just something that you can't share, but it's such good news. And so that's one of the things I enjoy the most is that the outcomes, I get to be that person for my clients who celebrates these very powerful, exciting wins. That just feels really cool.
That's amazing. Sharing those wins is like, those are wins for you as well. Can we define a little bit the ideal client profile? I did mention that it's mostly women leaders, but it's not probably just women. How would we define the ideal client profile? We can talk about the demographic. Is there an industry? Is there some common goals or other commonalities that you're seeing?
Yeah. Definitely. These people, the people I work with, I would say, and you're correct. I do have male clients, one-on-one male clients. My group work is all women, and they are people who have gotten to a level of success and realized to go to the next level of success, whatever that measurement feels like or looks like to them. I don't have the capacity to work more hours or to work harder. Like I'm maxed out. I'm giving as much as I'm willing to give. Maybe even I'm giving more than I want to be giving to this pursuit, but I still have this deep ambition for more. And at that point, when you really want more, but you don't have the time or energy to give more time or energy, what then? What happens then? Where do you go from there? And so that's the work I do where you go from there is that you dig deeply into your subconscious habits of thinking and figure out what is keeping you from growing that entity or growing that productivity or growing whatever it is that you want to grow that's happening inside of you. Because most of the time it's related to patterns of survival from we learned growing up or at some point along the way.
That makes a lot of sense. So basically breaking those patterns is like, first of all, you have to be aware of those. How is it like, and we can dive into this because this is actually the next question is, how do you work with your clients? For those women and those leaders who are listening, how do you help them? Is there a certain program? We talked about groups, we talked about one-on-one. Is there a program length? How is it like to work with you? How is the engagement?
Yeah, I love that. So the 2 ways that I work with people in a coaching context are small groups. So each year I do a fall and spring semester. So my fall groups kick off tomorrow, actually. They go September through December. And then my spring groups go like February through May. So sort of like school. Those groups are only women. We meet during lunch hour, typically on Wednesdays and via Zoom. So I'm looking at my list here. I think I have people from maybe 12 different states in the groups this semester. So they're from all over the country. And really, I was trying to find a commonality outside of them being absolutely incredible people and women. There's not really another commonality in terms of age or ethnicity or profession or, it's really a broad spectrum of women. So what we do in the context of the group, there's an assessment tool called the Habit Finder. When people think of habits, a lot of times they think of things like, are you exercising? What time are you waking up in the morning? Those, which are all great. That's not what I do. I work on subconscious habits of thinking. So these are things that are happening below the surface of our conscious reality. They are affecting the way we connect with people, the way we embrace structures that would serve us if we did. They impact our ability to see a task through from start to finish. So many things about our habits of thinking are impacting our day-to-day existence. So the Habit Finder gives us a snapshot of where you have risk of falling into certain patterns of thinking. And it really shows us what's happening in your brain right now. Now, that can change. Like, this is a fluid assessment. It is not your strengths. It's not your personality. It's not any of those types of things at all. This is very fluid. Then there's a curriculum that coordinates with it. So we work together through the curriculum and we're looking at their assessment all the time. This is the section we're working on. Let's review that part of your assessment. So it's really cool. One-on-one, I use the exact same tool. I do packages of 6 or 12 sessions where we work through the same curriculum. You meet with me via Zoom for an hour each session. And it's kind of like the difference between hiring a private coach at a gym or just going to like a workout class or being part of a workout group where, of course, if you're in a group, you're going to get less specialized attention to how you're doing an exercise or to how it impacts you specifically. My one-on-one clients are either they have a role where they need privacy. So it's inappropriate for them to talk about things at their work in front of anyone else because, maybe their decisions affect thousands of people, or it's just, there are a lot of people who are in public facing roles that I work with that need privacy. And so one-on-one is definitely, or they've kind of evolved or they need to do some more specific, deeper work about some very specific situations in their life or their work. And so those are my one-on-one clients.
So to better understand how the program works, I'm trying to understand also the subconscious part of it. So we talked about the tool of the Habit Finder. This has a lot to do with awareness and figuring out what the triggers are that can make you think a certain way. And the goal, I believe, here is, first of all, to be aware of where they are, where these triggers are. And how does actually, I'm going to let you explain, how does the Habit Finder tool work?
The tool itself is based on the science of axiology. It's how we value things. So we're taught that different things have different values in our mind. The assessment tool makes you decide which things you think have more value. And when you do that, in that moment of decision, it tells us a whole lot about what's happening at a subconscious level because we are trained to believe that things have different values. And in the moment of decision, what's revealed, what's really important is that your brain is hardwired to survive. It will follow paths that it has followed that have helped you survive. And those paths are revealed by the decisions you make while taking the assessment tool. Now, the science behind it, there are people for the company that could describe it better. I always tell people, like, I drive the car. I don't totally know how it works, like what's under the hood, but I know enough to be dangerous. And I do know it gets me from where I want to go to, like, from where I am to where I want to go. So the Habit Finder itself is a free tool that you can take at any time on my website. It's available to anyone who's curious about it and just wants to see patterns. People have very strong reactions to it, I will warn you, meaning How did they know that from that?
Yeah.
They'll ask that question a lot, or kind of even question the results a little bit. I just had this happen this week with someone. And by the end of our conversation, she felt really comfortable with it, but it does require a little bit of explanation and guidance when you're reading through the results. So,
Cool. And wanted to ask you and want to move a little bit more towards the business side of Amy Kemp. So your coaching business, and this is a question that maybe other coaches who are listening might find it interesting. And this will go also to that research paper that I mentioned earlier. When it comes to your audience, when it comes to your marketing, what marketing channel is working really well for you? How do people find you?
really, this is something I really wrestle with because people will ask me this a lot. Like, where do you get your clients? Where do they come from? And while I will say there are very clear processes and systems that I use to acquire new clients and things that I track that generate new clients. So, for example, I work to go to 5 different networking events a month. That doesn't have to be like a chamber networking event. It could be, I mean, we went yesterday into the city to play pickleball at a new place and I met like some super cool people there. Well, that's networking, right? I mean, I'm not leading with my business, but I made some really great connections. So that's counts as a networking event. So I do that kind of marketing, which is very much me interfacing with other people. Also, I work to have at least 10 conversations a month that are just kind of getting to know you conversations that are people I either meet through LinkedIn conversations or other contacts or social media, or maybe somebody refers them. I just got an email this morning, somebody sending a mutual introduction of someone. So I'll do 10 of those. I also work to do 10 debriefs of the assessment. So the habit finder, when someone takes it, where I dig deeply into those results. Now, is that marketing? I'm not sure, right? Like, I don't, yes, but what I have found with this kind of business is that my business grows the most when I focus on being very present in the next conversation I'm going to have. I don't focus as much every time I've gotten distracted. Like I have a website. I have a social media presence. I interact there. I do, but that is not where my best energy goes. My best energy and the energy that attracts and creates a new client comes from the simple question of like, if there's someone I can serve, put them on my path today and let me serve them. Let me show up for them, hold space for them, and create a connection that will lead eventually to some sort of business. So it's less about clicks and funnels and more about very heartfelt, authentic connection with people.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like direct communication with the people, going at it with value in mind, maybe not going in directly to sell or anything like that. You're just actually talking to them.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's in a way, from my marketing perspective, it is marketing. It's just not marketing at the top of the funnel. It's not about those vague metrics that some people measure. It's actually more on building that connection with the people. So you're kind of like, in a way, generating warm connections with people that later on could turn into something more. And the intention is not that they
Yeah.
have to, but they might. And most likely they do.
I mean, absolutely. And I think people can feel if you have agenda heading into those conversations. They know if you are showing up with any kind of hunger for something. You can feel it in people when they're hungry or desperate
Yeah.
or needy, right? There's an energy there. But when I look at the list of people who have signed up for my fall groups, as an example, I'm looking here, like as an example, one of them was at an event where I was speaking. So yeah, that's marketing. I was speaking at like a function for professional women. When I tell you, I could feel her looking at me in the crowd. Like I could physically feel that she was like latched onto what I was saying in this
Hmm.
presentation. And that was not true of everyone in the room. And afterward, I went up to her and I said, I have to know who you are because I was watching you the whole time. I could feel your energy. Anyhow, we ended up meeting for lunch. We had many conversations. It was not really about whether she wanted to work with me, but I
Hmm.
wanted to know who she was. And then we stayed connected. She came to another event. And then finally, this fall, she signed up to be part of one of my groups. So for most of the people that say yes, there's a process of at least probably 8 touches, whether that be a handwritten note, a text message I sent them, a lunch or coffee, or a Zoom if they live far away, or I see them at an event. And then, there's like 8 different touches before on average someone says yes.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So
So it's kind of like their journey has those 7 touch points before they actually fully trust you and actually can join the program.
yeah. And my offerings are not inexpensive. So I fully anticipate that I'm going to do some work on the front end to build trust.
Hmm.
That's what they really have to believe in me before they're going to say yes. But I also know there's a process. So there's this blend of relationship and intuitive connecting with people and systems that are happening simultaneously that create the magnetic energy of bringing someone into your client base or to become like to that yes that you're really looking for.
I appreciate you explaining all of that, and all of it makes sense to me. And I feel like this is going to be helpful for coaches to understand too, is that especially when you have a high, let's say high ticket, or like your programs are not cheap, or I don't want to use the word cheap,
No,
but
it's
are expensive for most people, then the journey is going to get that much longer. Like if they're cheaper, it's
yes.
not going to be 7 steps, might be 3 steps, might be 2 steps, might even be, okay, let's do it now. Or it could be like, if it's that cheap, then it could, the journey might be much shorter for them to trust you because they have less skin in the game at that point because they're investing way. Yeah.
It's like easy in, like easy barrier to entry would be a lower priced offering, and you can do bigger numbers for those types of offerings.
Hmm.
And like I do that, right? My book, for example, that's an easy barrier. No, there's no barrier to that entry point, right? It's an easy, you can walk in, look around, see if you like what you see, and then leave if you don't, or move forward. I also do 2 live workshops each year that are just a day long workshop,
Hmm.
lower price point, lots of people come, right? So those
Hmm.
are part of that layering process of moving someone toward the higher ticket offering. But
Hmm.
I think that when you have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, you can throw out an offering and people will sign up. I don't think that's the experience of most coaches that I've met.
Yeah.
More of them are working very intentionally to build trust and relationship with their clients. And, it's not always fast. A lot of these people who signed up for this semester, I've been in relationship for years with them. And now they're moving to a new level of engagement with my work. So,
And actually, the impact could be tied to the price point they're paying too. If the
mm,
price point is too low, their commitment is also low in a way. The impact you can make in them is much smaller than when they actually have skin in the game and they actually can give you that attention and dedication and commitment to the engagement with you.
okay.
And
I could talk about this for days. Because I do think there's something here that is so vital for people to understand in this industry or in this kind of work. One, my prices, I didn't start with my prices where they are now. It was a process of understanding the value of what was happening in the lives and businesses and work of my clients that allowed me and gave me confidence to continue to increase them over time. But I will also say I have intentionally priced myself at a point where you really do have to think about it and really consider. And you're exactly right. I don't have clients who don't do the work, who don't show up for their calls, who don't value me as a person because they have paid a significant amount of money and they have some skin in the game and they
Hmm.
want to get better and they're willing to work at it. And so they do the work and then they get the results, which is like amazing. It's the coolest thing ever. And then they're like, that was nothing I paid you compared to what I've gotten in return. Right. Like I just had a client, she's got a new job and she's earning 4 times more than what she was earning. She was like, I can't believe I was so worried about paying you. Like it's times 100, whatever. It's been so worth it. And that's like a very measurable outcome, but even more, it's almost always when I think back on what I've paid coaches, I think I underpaid them for the value of what I've gained from that over the compounding years of being able to use what I learned. So I think pricing is the hardest part of this kind of business in terms of the noise that comes up in your head when you're trying to figure out that number. But I believe not in exchange for hours for money. I believe in the exchange of value for money. And so if I can provide value that is worth my price point,
Hmm.
I also, this is interesting. I just had someone who I knew in my past professional life, very direct, kind of
Hmm.
crusty even, but I really like her a lot. She can
Hmm.
kind of get away with like saying some stuff to people. And I can't even remember why she called me, but we were chatting and she said, so I got on your website and looked at your prices. And she said, do people really pay you that? And I said, I paused because at first I was like, oh, you know, and then I paused and I said, you know what I've learned is that I'm worth that. And she said, noted.
I was expecting some twist to that, saying
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's actually cheap." I was expecting you to pay double that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just feel like I'm worth it. Like I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to justify to anyone. And I'm probably worth more, honestly.
Yeah,
There's always
absolutely.
room. So, yeah.
Yeah, pricing is definitely, with all the coaches I've interviewed, pricing is definitely a challenge, knowing how to get it right. And there's always room to grow. You don't necessarily have to work with 100 clients. You can work with 5 clients, and with the right pricing, you can make a bigger impact in those 5 clients than you can make with 100 at a lower price point without burning yourself out too. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So wanted to ask you, business wise, with your coaching business, where is it heading next? Do you have any specific goals for, let's say, the next 1 to 3 years?
Have you been in my head? Like I've
I don't
been
know. I don't
really,
know what's
I've been
going on here.
really chewing on this question lately. And I also have been really seeking the answer to this question because with the launch of my book last year, there was a lot of clarity around, I wanted, there was first the writing, then the publishing, and then the promotion. And I'm still in that promotional season. I want to see through at least 3 focused years of energy dedicated to the promotion of this book because I invested so much time in it and energy in creating it. So this fall, one thing I am doing is a listening tour. I had no energy around doing a book tour. In
Mhm.
fact, I'm so tired of talking about myself and this book. Like this conversation is such a relief because I'm talking about business and, but I've been talking about this book for a
Mhm.
lot, it's just a lot of conversations and promotion of it. And what I've missed and what I long for is hearing from the people I wrote the book for.
Hmm.
I'm deeply interested in those people. And I feel so energized when I get to just hear where they are, what's happening in the experience of this person I wrote my book for and who I serve through my business. And so I decided that I'm going to go on a listening tour. And I have hosts in different cities around the country who are gathering 20 women for me. And I have some questions about the topics in the book, things like unpaid labor, having boundaries with your work and your goals and your ambition,
Mhm.
identifying and harnessing the power of your natural genius. That I have questions for them. I want to know what's happening right now. And I want to really facilitate a conversation with that group of women. And so that's a new fun thing that I have a lot of energy around because all of my offerings and all of my work has been a response to the person I serve, not something that came from inside of me. I'm really good at curiously asking questions, serving the land. Like I'm even squinting my eyes because when I do it, it feels sort of like I'm putting a bunch of data in and then I'm like, and then like I come up with the three things that I know my people need next. Or
Mm-hmm.
like as an example, I do each year an event called Refresh where we take 20 women to a different US city and for a weekend and we don't do anything but have fun. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing, no training, nothing. That was a response to all of my people realize no one's having any fun. No, they don't have any fun. They're just working all of the time. And I was like, wait, no one, you don't have any girlfriends you're going anywhere with? And so we created out of a response to that, this offering, my friend and I, who owns a travel company, this event that we do. And it's become one of my favorite things to do. But I didn't sit at home and dream up that offering. I got out and like interacted with my people, figured out what they needed, and then met that need. And so that's kind of maybe where I am is in this like data gathering phase
Mm-hmm.
where I need to go out. I need like a pulse because I've just been talking about myself for a year. I'm so tired of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just want to hear from them. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
So basically, we have the book promotion and we have
mhm.
this other thing, which is kind of like you're thinking about a new offer, if I understood it correctly. So you're trying to understand what, for the people
I
who read the book or from these
mhm.
listening events that you're going to do, you're trying to figure out what you can offer next of value, right?
or Or if I need to, right? Or
Or
maybe
if you
what
need
I'm
to.
doing is great and I just stay with the processes I have, stay in the rhythm I have, and just serve people through the vehicles I've created. Because
Hmm.
it's great. Like right now, the systems are smooth. So do I need to complicate it? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, that's what I just think. Well, maybe what it is now, I've been in creation of these systems for the last 8 years. Maybe this season is about growing the size of my audience or just letting the wheels turn and serving the people with the systems and really enjoying the life I've created through it and
Hmm.
the work I'm doing that's very impactful. Maybe that's it. So I'm open, but I'm just going to listen and hear where people are. And if there is something that comes up where I feel like, oh, people need this, I'm there for it.
I like that you're listening instead of just going with your gut out of there and not knowing if this is actually a need that people
Mm-hmm.
have. So, what is a challenge for you right now as a coach? And this goes to that research again. With your coaching business specifically, what is the challenge you're working on solving next? We talked about the book promotion. We talked about this new offer possibility if
Yeah.
there's a need. We talked about the audience could be an option you go to if you want to grow your audience. But what is a challenge for you? Is
Mm-hmm.
it actually figuring out what the next step is, or is there something
No,
more?
I know what it is. The thing that I feel the most frustrated with almost always is the desire to grow the size of my audience. And like, it's so crazy because like the platform I use to host all my offerings and everything, they have like a top 10% of the producers that use this software program or whatever. Anyhow, I'm in it, right? And the size of my list is microscopic compared to the other people who are in this group of top producers because I've kind of gotten to know them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so I'm so profitable and so impactful with my group of people that I have served and that are on my list. And the list is growing. But what would it look like if I could multiply the size of that list?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that require? Because everyone I talk to who talks about this, like scaling or growing that, I'm really not interested in like being a motivational speaker. I don't want to travel around and speak for my work That's not the work I love to do. I love the coaching work. I
Mm-hmm.
understand I do a lot of speaking and I'm good at it, but that's not what I want to be central, right? I'm also not interested in like overworking or being on the road for 12 days in a row and I have eaten only crappy food and slept in hotel beds. Like, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
At this, I don't ever want to do that, honestly. That does not feel appealing to me. I'll go do something else, right? That's not the life I want. And my business is a vehicle that is allowing me to not only serve people, but to build a life I love. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not willing to sacrifice that. So is there a way for me? This is the question I have. If someone can answer it, I'm like here for it. Is there a way for me to grow this list and the impact my work has, which is very real and very measurable and very authentic, and to grow that list without like complete sacrifice of quality of life? And
Without burnout, basically,
yeah,
without
I don't want to do
having
that.
to increase the hours you're putting into your business.
Totally.
That
Without more work.
makes a lot of sense. So you're thinking about scaling,
Mm-hmm.
but not because scaling sometimes can be misunderstood by people. It doesn't actually mean just growing in revenue. It means growing without having to put more effort. Is it working kind of like
Mm-hmm.
smarter in a way?
Yeah.
So I feel like from what you explained, you're interested in scaling your impact. You're not necessarily driven by revenue because you feel like you're happy where you are.
Oh no,
Revenue is
that's not true. I would love to grow the revenue. I don't ever
okay.
want to put that out into the
Okay,
world.
cool. Thank you for explaining
I'm
that.
always interested in more revenue. What
Okay.
I'm not interested in is I don't have the luxury of like, I have kids at home. I'm not missing out on that. I
Yeah.
don't want to, I don't want to miss out on life is really good here. I love my life.
Hmm.
I play pickleball. I love my life.
I
I mean,
see.
it is good, right? Like I have so many fun friendships and like I love it. And that is the core of my work too. So I'm
Hmm.
not giving that up. But
Yeah.
who can help me grow the size of my audience without giving that up? I do think it's possible. I think it'll be a person, not a system,
Hmm.
probably.
Yeah.
Maybe a person who helps me implement a system or something.
Hmm.
But that is the question I'm looking to answer right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot. And by the way, when I said you might not be, you are since you confirmed it, but revenue is since you never mentioned it, I was like, maybe revenue. Revenue is gonna have there's no way you cannot grow revenue with when you're scaling your impact. There's no way
100%.
you're gonna scale to a point and the revenue is gonna stay the same. That doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So
I'm
both of them are gonna
very
grow.
interested in growing revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Always.
you.
Unapologetically.
But
Yes.
you want to maintain the quality of life that you
Yes.
have now because that is the
Not at
point
the
that you're
sacrifice of that.
happy with. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense to
And
me.
every company I've talked to that
Hmm.
talks about scaling
Hmm.
immediately will say to me, well, you've got to be willing to hustle. You've got to be willing to put in, 2 or 3 years that are really hard and
Hmm.
horrible. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I'll give you 6 years of consistent effort that fits within the boundaries of my quality of life.
Hmm.
I'm not missing a year of my kid's life.
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, if I do, everything I wrote about in my book, every bit of the work I do with my clients is then out of integrity.
Hmm.
Not appealing. No, thank you.
So yeah, there's definitely ways where the amount of load of work could stay the same and the scale could increase while growing your audiences. You just have to think about creative offers at that point. Yeah, I really like that. It's just making me think even more.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not the first coach that
Mm.
has brought this to the podcast, or it's just like I'm thinking like
Mm-hmm.
what would be a very
Because
good.
there's this also, Regin, it's the work we do as coaches, right? We do the work of coaching,
Hmm.
but there's also the work of creating clients. So there's two kinds of work. I think the larger your list, the easier the creation of clients is. Do you think so?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
It seems logical to me,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I keep thinking is like, okay, I'm really smart. How can we figure out, or who do I need that can help me
Hmm.
do that? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I really love what you just said. And I like coaches that are focused on growing while still maintaining the quality of their life, because if you're burned out, there's no way you can deliver great results to your clients anyway. So that's not going to work for you still. Now, I want to get to the final question because we could talk about this for hours. The final question is, and this is related to this, for other coaches, just like yourself, who are trying to scale their impact, what advice would you give to these coaches? And it could actually be an advice you'd give to yourself.
I just wrote about this morning. So I'm going to be teaching a group of coaches this weekend at an event I'm going to. What I would say as my advice is that there is a blend of systems, and I kind of said this earlier, a blend of systems that are in place and moving along in a business like this that are really important, right? Like follow-up systems, email systems, having ways that people register that for offerings that are easy, contracts, like all the systems you have are very important. And then there's this creative, intuitive work you do also of like, I'm going to check back with her one more time about that offering because I just have a feeling that she was teetering. And if I just ask one more time, like it might be different. Or the intuition that says, take her off the list for now. It just doesn't feel like it's the right time to follow up or to ask again or to step into that. So there's that. It's sort of an artistic, creative. There's like this very regimented, logical, process-driven part of the business. There's this intuitive, artistic, creative, relational part of the business also. None of it works if you aren't in the energy of allowing and receiving. You can do both of those things really well. And I've seen coaches who probably are better coaches than me, who check the boxes better than me, who have bigger lists than me, and they don't make any money because in the end, this is like there's something bigger happening through me in this work. And when I get to trying to figure it out and trying to be so strategic and trying to, whatever, when I get too much of that energy that's controlling and a little fear-based, a little like driven by fear of, I don't know what, but fear of not enough. What creates growth in a business like this is an energy of like letting energy, for me, like from a greater source move through me and out into the world, like this brightness, this light, that none of it works without that. And so you can study and try to figure out and learn and whatever, but like in the end, the people I see thriving and succeeding in this space are the people who have an openness to allow that flow through them in their unique way out into the world. That would be my advice. Whatever's blocking that, you got to figure that out because you'll work your tail off and not get any results if you don't.
Thank you so much for the advice. This was a great conversation, and I feel like I could talk with you for hours. So thank you so much for coming and taking the time to come into our podcast. For anyone that is listening that wants to reach out to you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up Amy Kemp on LinkedIn, and they'll be able to find your profile. Is also the website amykemp.com, if I'm not mistaken?
Just my name. Yep.
They can go to the website as well. We'll put that in the description so people can easily click to it. But thank you so much, Amy. It was lovely to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Regin.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.